incredible insight into the system that we're faced with. And although he's under orders not to talk about anything to do with his past case, because he's still under a non-harassment order. So we're being very good citizens and doing everything properly, but it seems like the state has a red dot over our hearts. It's a bit of a shame, but never mind. So without further ado, this is going to be an impromptu day-to-day, but Robert's going to say a few words about what he's been doing of late and giving us a bit of an insight into some of the difficulties we're facing with the state and their shenanigans. So if you don't mind, I'll pass you over to Robert.
Yay!
Thank you. Am I still in position here?
You're fine.
Am I alright here?
Yeah.
Right. Can I go? As I was saying, what was I saying? Anyway, I think we were rather up to obviously a very serious subject about the press and the way that I was attacked by the Times, Sunday Times actually, also by the Daily Mail twice, and from Private Eye. Now, in the list that we talked about, the range list, there were journalists named from 3 publications in the list of people who are connected to Satanist ritual abuse. And those, the 3 publications were the Times, the Daily Mail, and Private Eye. So isn't it a coincidence those were the 3 papers who went after me and tried to discredit me? Anyway, it didn't matter because Chief Constable Beale, as many of you know, was being attacked from all sides for his noble and brave stance. He was doing what every police officer in the country should be doing, acting on his principles, on his oath. And obviously it would be wonderful if we had a few more police officers who would take the same line. He was not going to be bullied by anybody, and he stuck to his guns, and I think he's a real hero and should be. If there's anybody in this country who should be honoured at the moment, it's Chief Constable Mike Beale, because he's done the most terrible personal pressure, smears, everything from the mainstream media, who didn't want to hear what he had to say and were adamant that they wanted to protect Edward Heath despite the evidence that had been provided. And none of those people in the media possibly could have known what that evidence was at the time. They were attacking him without even knowing what the evidence was. I knew the evidence was very different, but obviously there was much other evidence as well, but nobody, the media, not all the media, but most of the media didn't want to give him a chance. He was there taking lots of money for himself and all this nonsense, wanting to make a name for himself, the usual kind of smears to anyone who's actually prepared to stand up to the bullies in the state. And that's what he did, and I have huge admiration for him, and we're still in regular contact. Now, as a result of this, I thought that a further person should be involved because of the nature of the concern. That was the Prime Minister, Theresa May. So I began making contact with Downing Street to make sure that she has a document, seeing that so many of the people were in positions of power and some of them remain in positions of power. So I thought it was right that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom should have sight of this expert document on which I had relied. So I tried to contact her through Downing Street first of all, and spoke to a gentleman called Mitchell Berry. Now, for some reason Mitchell Berry didn't seem to like it very much. He wasn't he didn't. And he didn't really seem to want to help us all, he just wanted to be obstructive. And I said, I think the Prime Minister, if I send you this document, will you make sure it goes into the Prime Minister's hands? And he would not cooperate at all. So the next thing I did, I determined to make sure that we all knew that the Prime Minister had this document. It was so important. So then I tried to contact Theresa May's constituency office in Maidenhead in Berkshire. And I wrote to the chairman, a man called Councillor Jeff Hill, and I sent a letter marked private and confidential, not by email, private and confidential, registered delivery at the beginning of November with a copy of the Rains document, saying that I would like him to personally put this in the hands of the Prime Minister. I believe that she had a right to know about the existence of this document, which had been used already in Operation Conifer. So nothing happened, and I wrote again about 3 weeks later. Still nothing happened. And at the beginning of January, let the Christmas period go by, I wrote again, still no response. I tried to ring the constituency office, but we get no response. So a third letter was sent, again private confidential. Still nothing until the 26th of January this year. At approximately 0850 hours, I received a phone call from my home, and the caller was Councillor Jeff Hill, the chairman of the Prime Minister's constituency. He was very nice and very civil, and he said, "Mr. Green," he said, "I don't know what all this is about. We've talked about the document in the last letter, but I've never seen anything. Nothing's been seen. How did you send it?" So I explained this had gone private confidential to him, as the chairman, the Prime Minister's constituency chairman, and it was sent to the registered delivery, so somebody had to sign for it at the constituency office. He said, "I've never seen it. I know nothing about this letter." So he was quite open and agreed that it must have been intercepted by somebody working in the Prime Minister's office, or someone who had intercepted it before reaching. Well, somebody had intercepted that letter to the chairman marked private confidential, which in fact is a very serious matter in itself, considering the nature of the content. Anyway, he said, "Can you have a copy of it, this arranged document emailed to you now?" And I said, "Yes, of course I can do that." So that morning I had a copy of the document emailed to him, and I asked him if he could let me know that A, he'd received it, and B, when he put it confirmed it was in the possession of the Prime Minister personally, not anybody else, but the Prime Minister. And he confirmed very politely, calling me Robert, which was very nice and unexpected. He said, "Yes, I've got the document now. I'll see the Prime Minister gets it." And later in the afternoon, I just got a very simple response from him by email, and it just said, "Done it." And we had one or two more conversations, but that confirmed that the Prime Minister, Theresa May, is in possession of this document about people who have been involved in Satanist ritual abuse or have been connected to it in some way, not necessarily committed a crime, but there it is. So we have the Operation Conifer having this document, and the Prime Minister. Now we know from that exchange on the 26th of January that she is in possession of the facts, and there are some very big names on that range list indeed. It's still wielding considerable power, and they come, as we talk about politicians, we've often wondered why no political parties seem to want to take up the cause of protecting children from these horrible crimes. The answer to that is they're all in it. And it doesn't mean that the majority of politicians are involved in this directly, but there are certain elements in that. In the document that I mentioned, there were quite a number of Conservatives, including Sir Edward Heath. There were quite a number of Labour people, particularly from the Blair era, and there were a number of, perhaps what we describe as some of the things that have gone on from Liberal Democrats as well. So there we are, all three of the major parties all had skeletons which they wanted to cover up. So obviously there's a great deal of blackmail involved in here, and this isn't talked about often enough. And I would think I should make this point because the media, even when they're talking about Edward Heath and all the rest of it, don't make this point. Many of you will know about the Tim Fortescue BBC television recording. Tim Fortescue, for those who don't know, was the chief whip under the Heath government from 1970 to 1974. And in that remarkable interview that was first broadcast in 1995 on BBC, Tim Fortescue said that that people came to them with problems, the chief whip with problems, and sometimes with little boys, and we helped them, we protected them. And that, and he went on to say, and that way basically they did whatever they were told. So during the era of the Edward Heath government, we now know, irrespective of what Heath may or may not have done, that actually the country was being run by blackmail. There's no question about that.
The government whips build up dossiers of information, both political and personal, about their flocks. and the whips also act as a kind of welfare agency for MPs. One Tory whip claims they perform 1,000 acts of unremarked kindness each year for Tory MPs who face personal problems.
Anyone with any sense who was in trouble would come to the whips and tell them the truth and say, no, I'm in a jam, can you help? It might be debt, it might be scandal involving small boys, or any kind of scandal which a member seemed likely to be mixed up in. They'd come and ask if we could help. And if we could, we did. And we would do everything we can, because we would store up brownie points. That sounds a pretty nasty reason, but it's one of the reasons. Is if we can get a chap out of trouble, then he'll do as we ask forevermore.
The Tory whips approach rich Conservatives to help bail out MPs facing bankruptcy in order to avoid embarrassing publicity for the party. In the Tory whip's office, they keep records of the personal problems of their MPs in what's called the Black Book, or Dirt Book, which is kept in the Chief Whip's safe.
I mean, the Dirt Book was just a little book where you had to write down in varying things that you knew or heard about people.
But what sort of thing would you put in the Dirt Book?
Oh, well, you can take a very good guess. I don't think I should go any further than say you could take a very good guess of all the sorts of things that would happen in life. You would have a good spread of them that would be happening to varying people that you had heard about or knew about or maybe true.
The small third party at the time, the Liberal Democrats, had about 14 seats when he was in situ, and he had to hold no real power within the Liberal Democrats. He was thought of as a security risk to the country. How could that be? A fairly impoverished-sized, insignificant member of a small third party at the time, how could he possibly pose a risk to the security of the country? The only reason I would say is that he could be a risk that he was in contact with people in more senior positions who were behaving in a way in which they could be held to blackmail. And in fact, MI5 actually went and said they knew all about Smith, but did not pass on the information to the police because they were concerned about the security of the realm, whatever the realm may be. I thought the realm was all of us, but it didn't seem to matter about children who were being brutally abused. So that was it. So the security services themselves admitted they were covering up serious crimes in order to protect the realm, whatever that may be. So we're living with that kind of situation, and obviously we know, at the present time, who knows with the Prime Minister at the moment. Let's be quite honest, it's not fair to be perhaps too critical, but we do know within the last few months, 2 ministers have had to resign over, shall we say, concerning sexual misdemeanours, which was Damien Green and Michael Fallon. So the 2 senior ministers and the President of the Cabinet that was in situ just a short time ago had to resign over that. That to me says there may be 2 other ministers who are in very, very high positions, including one was the Minister of Defence, who might have laid themselves open to blackmail. So we do have to worry when you see that the government making all kinds of decisions, both internally and externally, wars and other issues, and you wonder what's going on, and you perhaps talk to all your friends and neighbours and I don't like what the government's doing, don't agree with that. We're all saying this, especially in democracy, yet things still get pushed through that we do not agree with fundamentally. And we know virtually all our friends and colleagues who we talk to, and this is happening all over the country, do not agree. Why is that taking place? It's not the will of the people, that's for sure. The majority of the people are dead against it. And I think that is a very serious question for the government to answer. And certainly for the Prime Minister to answer. If we have faith in her and her cabinet, this matter must be addressed in the interests of the people of the United Kingdom. So, anything else? Having made that speech, is there anything else that you'd like to ask anybody?
I'll just come back on, reflect upon what you say, and ask another question surrounding it. All of us that are awakened we know that we should be putting the children first.
Yes.
And everything that we're finding out about the state, the children's rights are way down the line and are disregarded. What possible reason could the Prime Minister have for sitting on this information against us?
The answer is I don't know, but I'm sure she's not going to share it with me, that's for sure. But
do you not think if she herself was, as the Prime Minister, taking a lead, one thing she could do is to make a public statement, make a press statement and say, this is appalling, we need to investigate everybody that's on the rates list, and we need to look after these children who are being abused, and we can no longer, in the 21st century, protect people's
security.
Well, protecting
Safety of everyone.
The way that the state does it, it protects people's reputation rather than having any regard for children.
Yes, well, there's no doubt about that. But it's a difficult question to ask because we know how much influence the people who do not have any respect for the protection and the safety of children have in government. It suits members of the government to have people they can blackmail in order to get them to do their will, as we saw with the Heath government. Confirmed quite conclusively by Tim Fortescue, BBC interview 1995, repeated again in 2014. If everybody hasn't seen it and wants to see it, it is absolutely a damning revelation about the way government exists in this country. If I may think, there's just another issue I'll talk about briefly, and this is again something south of the border that we kind of face with, and many of you have heard of the family division, the family courts, and the secrecy of the family courts. Some cases in which I'm involved in to a certain extent involve, again, almost certainly the abuse of children and children being stolen from their mothers, often not to be placed with nice, caring, adoptive parents, but people are suspected of abuse themselves. This is going on and there is a major problem here that if social workers, police, and in some cases even members of the judiciary make a mistake or behave badly or corrupt and make them part of the system, then no one is allowed to say anything because of the secrecy of the court and the gagging order placed upon the people, sort of the mothers who do attend the courts. So this is a terrible thing and it must be overcome. Children at the present time, I'm well aware of serious risk of continued abuse or even death because they've been placed in a situation of great danger by the family court itself. As a result of this, I'm in fairly regular contact with the head of the Supreme Court, Baroness Hale of Richmond, over a number of issues. But one question I've just put to her, and there's not been time for her to respond yet, is in the case of the gagging order, what if you are a mother and you know as a result of the judge's decision that your children are in danger at this present time? If you really believe it, you have every reason to believe that. There is a defence under English law, and I think it may be the same in Scotland. It's called duress of circumstance. For those who are not aware of this, I'll do it in very simple terms. If you're an ambulance driver and somebody's had a heart attack and you're whipping them to hospital, there's a red traffic light in front of you and you go straight through, bang, 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 ding, 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 and go straight through, as we see all the time, that ambulance driver is actually fundamentally breaking the law. But if he were to be, that ambulance driver were to be arrested, he would say, duress of circumstance, if I hadn't gone through that red light, that man in my things might have died. And he would be protected. As are police officers, when they go through red lights, it's the same thing. But they have a duty to do which overrides the minor breaching of the law. And so the duress of circumstances can apply in all those circumstances. So what I have said to Baroness Hale, and I just want a straight answer on this, I've actually said this is a hypothetical question, but if a mother, we're saying sometimes it's the father, but mostly it's the ladies who are the victims of this. If a mother reaches a gagging order, and could she success? Is there a circumstances exist where she could successfully use duress of circumstance as her defence? If I didn't speak, my children might be raped, they might be murdered, anything might happen to them as a result of the court's decision. Is that a possible defence? The President of the Supreme Court has to answer that question, and I don't see how she can say no, because it is an acknowledged defence under English law, and if she says yes, there are circumstances, we will bring that out, we will try to encourage parents, if they have the courage to do so, and also the media as well, who are gagged all, I mean, we do criticise the mainstream media for sort of just following the official line and not reporting things, even when people like Cyril Smith and Jimmy Savile were raping the children, they said nothing at all. So many of them, many editors are cowards, I have to say, quite bluntly. But it would be great if they did do the job properly. We don't want to alienate them unnecessarily. There's always a time for them to come back. But I'm sure many journalists, I know some of the journalists who would love to report what is going on in the family courts in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, but they are prevented to do so by a single judge, not a jury, a single judge. And we hope that situation comes to an end. There's some very big cases going on. One case which I'm not, which is going to be an example of, which I'm not actually involved in any way, but I know about it, is there is a case where there is actually a child has been raped by a father, and a film actually exists of the father raping that child, and the judge will not look at it. Under the Ministry of Justice ruling, every judge in the family division has a responsibility to look at the evidence from both sides. But the judges are actually flouting the conditions, the fundamental conditions of the 1989 Southern Act, which declares that the paramount responsibility, the paramount priority is the welfare of the child. So judges in the family court are flouting that at the present time, and terrible things are happening as a result of that. So that's one of the other cases I'm doing my best to help in some ways. A lot of people are working very hard on this. Lots and lots of people south of the border are doing a lot on this. But I just tell you my little part in it, if I can help in any way to change this and protect the children who are being so, I shall say, very, very great risk.
On the secrecy side, we're seeing a couple of things in Scotland just now. One is the Freedom of Information Act is being circumvented.
Yes, sir.
By special advisors, quangos, local authorities. They're doing everything possible to prevent information which is embarrassing to them being revealed.
Yes.
And the other thing which is new is the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulations, have come in. And what we're seeing is the blanket refusal. We can't tell you that because of data protection.
Right.
And this again has been used to cover up wrongdoing.
Yes.
So do you see this? Do you see the degree of secrecy that the state is using getting worse?
It does get worse. Yes, yes. I'm not sufficiently qualified to talk about the terms of the various acts and so forth. I'm not really terribly well informed in all of that. But there's absolutely no doubt from my own investigations and attempts myself that everything is down to shut down to protect officials who have behaved badly, either they've made errors or in some cases they have actually been involved in criminal behaviour, either committing crimes directly or allowing crimes to be carried out. So this is definitely, this is again one of the last resorts of the people who are trying to close down all criticism, all revelations. Transparency is being cut from under our feet, and it attacks freedom of democracy, it attacks everything that we hold dear and should hold dear in this country. Everything. It affects everything, and we have to stand up for that, because everybody is going to suffer. And people like myself, getting on a little bit, we have to think about children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren in the future. And if we don't make a stand now, we are going to live under a fascist dictatorship where anybody who speaks out of line, and it's not just a few people like me, are going to be thrown into prison for trying to protect the children of our country.
Robert, a point on whistleblowers, because you talked a bit about how people who are whistleblowing, things are going wrong, the state picks on them and marginalises them, etc. And this goes on in the family courts as well. This today is the 23rd of June 2018, and here in the mainstream media reports of in one institution instances where people have been, to coin a phrase, bumped off by the state, like unless you're last year, the massive losses of way up some beds, we know already from this one case that whistleblowers that were anxious to say what was going on were marginalised, were picked upon, were forced out of the NHS, and what they did was eventually they kicked it in touch for 20 odd years, and then it's only now that they're looking at it again and saying, oh yeah, this happened back in the day, isn't it terrible, but that was back then, and we would do things differently now. Isn't this a sort of similar sounding, we will learn the lessons that they're using for their children's
Yes. The lessons are going to be learned. How many times have we heard that? The lessons are never learned. They're kicking you into the long grass. That's the point I think I've talked about Chief Constable Veal and how brave he is. He's now in charge of the Cleveland Saturday now. But I think I should mention certainly a couple of very brave police officers south of the border. Maggie Oliver, who's in the Rochdale case. You've probably seen the film Take 3 Girls. She's been very brave, and I had the honour of meeting her at the beginning of March. Another police officer from the same area called Peter Jackson, also very brave, and perhaps most of all, someone who's actually spoken at a Fresh Start Foundation meeting, John Wedger. A great man, I do mean a great man in every sense of the word. The sacrifices he made and the risks he took far outweigh anything that I've done. If you're looking for a real hero, John Wedger is the man. And we do hope that police who are perhaps watching this, maybe seeing this film, good police all over the United Kingdom will take the same line that John Wedger did, and Maggie Oliver and Pete Jackson, and come forward and try to expose all this. If you're a good policeman and you know terrible things have been on and covered up at a very high level, then try to find friends and colleagues who are brave enough to stand with you. Because if you do not, you're actually breaking your oath, I would remind all police officers. You have to treat everybody equally and go along with the solemn oath that you have taken to protect people. To deal with everything without fear or favour, and that means without fear of being attacked by the chief constable having a pension in sacked and your pension stopped. That includes that. It doesn't, you might be frightened, but you're still breaking the law if you don't proceed on the evidence. And that, of course, is what John Wedger did and Mike Veal did. And they were hammered for it, but they still did it. This is what they said. And there's a two great men. And great credit to Maggie Oliver as well for coming out there. So more police officers coming forward. That's what we want. Good police, plenty of good police officers. Right. Any more questions?
Can I just do a wee thank you for Robert?
Thank you.
Robert's come here now. We have to recognise there's a certain degree of personal risk. And the reason that there's personal risk is not because Robert is doing anything wrong, not because he's acting unlawfully, it's not because he's breaking any court order. He's doing none of that. The reason there's personal risk is the law no longer is reliable. And this is something we're all faced, because on one day the law will protect you, on another day the law will persecute you. You never know which day it is. Right? The law has become random, and it's become unreliable, and it's become opaque, because we no longer understand the law, because the law is now a stack of paper the height of this little building. Right? And obscure acts, and it's everywhere. So no one can ever know that they're standing on the law anymore. Right? I saw an American lawyer describe this. Right? He asked if anyone thought that they were completely innocent of breaking any crime, and then he pointed out that it was a federal crime in America to be in possession of a short lobster, a lobster below a certain length. So it doesn't matter, and that's because it's a crime in Guatemala, and any crime anywhere in the world concerning fish or agriculture or wildlife is a federal crime in America. Right? No one could possibly know this. He pointed out it didn't matter if the officer was alive or dead, and if it was dead, it didn't matter if you killed it in self-defence, you were still guilty of a federal crime. So the law has become so complex as to become unknown. And then what Robert's case shows is something worse, that the interpretation of the law has become arbitrary. Now, I was in court, he can't talk about any of this, but I was in court watching what was happening. And the message that was given to Robert in court was not what was in writing. It was utterly different. And then he was expecting to get something in writing and nothing happened. He said, no, there is no further order, it's just the original order. So what happened in court and what was in the written law, they bore no resemblance one to another. So what is the law? What is permissible becomes unknowable. Now, that's for a purpose, because that generates fear. Right? When you see a police officer these days, what do you feel? Do you feel safer? No. No, we don't feel safer anymore. We see this person as someone who's going to arbitrarily arrest us, detain us, fine us, in some way ruin our day. I had police officers come up to me and said, how are you doing today? I'm fine. Not anymore. I'm going to ruin your day. I actually said that. Right? Because of, I put my seatbelt on slightly after the car started moving. And that was a £40 ka-ching opportunity that he wasn't going to miss. Now, so we see police officers no longer as protection. We see them as a threat. Right? I'm all about the law. I've been law-abiding all my days. I love the law. If I see the police officer as a threat, as much as a protection, I'm sure that's common. So how can you know? So the laws become arbitrary. The police have become no longer someone who can be relied upon to protect you, protect your property, protect your life, a friend. It's not that anymore, because there's 1,000 ways that you could be convicted, that your life could be disrupted. And what matters is not your lawfulness. What matters is your compliance. Right? Don't speak out. That's the message. Silence. Know your place. We're not all equal in the common law jurisdiction. You're ruled, be ruled. Now, that is not the nature and the history and the inheritance of this people, because we are all equal. And that's been changed, and it's been changed in 1,000 little ways. So there's risk, but we stand against the risk, and we speak out because we believe in the law, and we believe that protecting the most vulnerable in society is something worth taking the risk for. Stand together, because individuals are picked off. Right? One of the things the Fresh Start Foundation represents is if anyone is unlawfully detained for speaking out about child sexual abuse, there are dozens, there are hundreds of people who will write, who will phone, who will campaign, who will ask parliamentary questions, who will never give up. So one of the reasons we're asking people to join us is for safety, because on your own you're vulnerable, but with numbers comes strength. Providing it's lawful, providing it's discipline, self-discipline, discipline to the heart, providing we stand on lawful, peaceful conduct, and we stand together, we become stronger. So I want to thank Robert for his courage in coming here today to beautiful sunny Aberdeen. And I want to thank Robert for all that he's done to inspire all of us who are here today. So Robert,
thank you. That's very kind. I need to say, I don't know what to say now. I'm becoming emotional now. I can't bear it. No, but seriously, and to go on with what David said, an unlawful attack on one of us is an attack on all of us, and we have to do this. This is where we stand together. we can win this. They think they have all the power, we have all the moral power, and we even have the law on our side. Although they try to trick us into thinking that we have what we have, and we're going to use that to the best effect that we possibly can. So thank you all, thank you for all your kindness, thank you for coming along today, and stick with the Fresh Start Foundation. They're great.